I guess the first thing I should do is thank everybody who made this day necessary.
I love you, girls.
That hooded spectator in the Hall of Fame theater is none other than our own Keith Costas, who's good enough to profile a candidate a day leading up to Hall of Fame Day on Tuesday. Who's in the crosshairs today, Keith?
Well, it's Todd Helton today, guys, and I'm not sure there's quite as many people who need to hear this as there was a couple years ago because he's trending in the right direction. He's plus 28 in the tracker this year, 29% last year. He's tracking about 55% this year. But starting with the basics, guys, we've talked about compilers, longevity, and I think this is relevant just in terms of the fame aspect of the Hall of Fame. Brand recognition of guys who spent their whole careers with one team. It's a pretty exclusive list in the last 35 years. If you go back, Todd Helton, obviously, his entire time in Denver. Now, he was a 5-time All-Star. It was a stacked position, a huge offensive era, obviously, but 5 consecutive seasons, those All-Star appearances came in, and here were his numbers. Just stupid numbers, guys. 50 doubles a year, almost 350, over 120 runs and RBIs. Obviously, he's playing in Coors, but you see that bottom number, OPS Plus takes that into account. Third in the NL behind the 2 best hitters of my lifetime, Barry Bonds and Albert Pujols. Now, you look at what he did on the road in those 5 years, just kind of stumbled right into this the other day. I wasn't aware of this comp, but I'd say that's pretty close to Alex Rodriguez,
Wow.
one of the best players in the game at the time. So 5 years does not make a career, obviously, but some pretty eye-striking numbers there considering the kind of narrative around Coors players. Now, you look at the whole career, these are all first-ballot Hall of Famers. Their OPS on the road. Helton falls right in the middle of this group at 855 on the road for his career. So, again, that's not the whole story, but kind of addresses the big gripe that people tend to have with Todd Helton when you talk about those numbers at Coors. And I think it's pretty much agreed upon at this point that as much as we talk about the bump you get from Coors, there's an undeniable hurdle you have to overcome on the road going from altitude to all these different environments. So that 855 OPS for Helton, even more impressive maybe than some other players going on the road from other venues.
Fantastic perspective. I think also with Helton, underrated as a defender, 3-time Gold Glover, and as you mentioned, it was a stacked position when he played, and especially in his glory years, if you will, in the early part of the 2000s. Yeah, I love the fact that he's trending upward. Do you think it's enough to get him into the building this year, Keith?
I don't know about this year, but I think he'll get there in the next couple years. And Matty, we talk about those road numbers. No one's in better position than you to talk about these numbers, being in the division as a Padres announcer for much of that time. Check out what he's done at Petco. That's the highest batting average in the history of Petco Park. So, Matty, you saw this guy all the time. I would imagine that you and the fellow Padres faithful weren't exactly saying, oh, great, we got Helton in San Diego this weekend, no problem.
Yeah, people were very aware of the damage he did in that ballpark. He would run roughshod over some of those pitching staffs. We're actually at the root of the problem, too. It wasn't just the ballpark. But, yeah, man, great hitter, an elite player.
Well, you know what? Unlike Larry Walker, who went into the Hall of Fame, we're talking about a player that played only in Colorado. We don't have any comparison of playing with other ball clubs. So how do you hold it against a player that played in one place only?
Yeah.
To me, you can't do it. And Helton, with those numbers that Keith just gave, I think, deserves that vote to keep ticking forward until he gets in.
Really an outlier, too, when you think of the modern era today, contemporary baseball, and for a guy to have played all 17 years of his career in one uniform, I don't care whether it was the Rockies, the Marlins, the Yankees, the Angels, one uniform for me for that period of time deserves consideration as well.